in this episode of American Giants.
We're at the greenhouse of Crystal Lake in just north of Chicago. This place is kind of on the map for Muffler Men because they've actually got two of them here. I don't think he's a Paul Bunyan model because his chin is completely smooth. Around 1962, a fiberglass company in Venice, California started making giant Paul Bunyan figures for businesses to use as attention getters. After a few sales and a nice write-up in a trade magazine, their business took off. Over the next 10 years, over 400 of these fiberglass giants were sold across America. Now, 40 years later, and with fewer than 200 left, they remind us of a time before digital billboards and the internet. A time when businesses used giant roadside architecture to catch your attention. My name is Joel Baker. I travel across America searching for what has become known as the Muffler Man. The places they have been and the stories they hold fascinate me. And I never know what I'm gonna find as I look for the remaining American giants. We finally arrived in Chicago, Illinois, and there are actually a lot of Muffler Men located in Chicago.
So north of Chicago area, there is the town called Crystal Lake, and they have a nursery where there are two, not just one, but two Muffler Men, and one is a Bunyan and the other one is an Indian.
As soon as you pull up to the property, you see the big Indian and the serviceman model that they have there, standing a few hundred feet apart from each other. And the staff welcomed us. We were not the first Muffler Man hunters to arrive. They are on Roadside America's map, and so they get occasional visitors to come to the greenhouse that are there just to see the Muffler Men.
One stop on our trip was this cool little greenhouse. It had all these sculptures all over the place, alligators and Greek god busts, and the Blues Brothers, I think, was one of the sculptures. Just a lot of random stuff all over the place.
You see like the grass top of that hut thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the bathrooms of course.
Cool. I'll go check it out for you, Neto.
Okay, thank you, man.
So the first one we checked out was the Bunyan, and everyone called it a Bunyan, but after looking at it just a little closer, I quickly realized that we weren't looking at a Bunyan at all. He's got the smooth chin with a black beard painted on top. There's no ridges. The beard doesn't stick out like the other Bunyans do. There's different models, but the Bunyan model was a Paul Bunyan, and he has a beard. I don't think he's a Paul Bunyan model because his chin is completely smooth. They made what they called a serviceman model that just had hair and a clean-shaven chin, and I think that's what he is. But they painted the chin on.
Let me see.
Like, I hadn't really paid attention, but this was where I started to actually like pick up on a couple of things and listen to what Joel had to say about all the ins and outs that make one Muffler Man very different than another.
It was a really nice establishment. It kind of was topped off by the two Muffler Men, which I think were the only statues that weren't for sale on the property. The Indian and the serviceman model there came not too many years ago from Ozzys Water Park. Ozzys Water Park was located on Rand Road, right between Long Grove Road and Lake Cook Road. And these giants were first reported on around 1999 on Roadside America as being at the water park. In 2001, Deborah Jane Seltzer stopped and got some great shots of these guys. She has a huge website, has devoted all of her free time to traveling across America and documenting not just Muffler Men, but everything else. Muffler Men is actually a very small part of what she does. But often I refer to her website because she has great historical pictures from the early 2000s and sometimes the late 90s when she first started traveling across America and taking pictures of many things, but in my interest, Muffler Men. She noticed, as well as the guys at Roadside America, that the feet were missing, and this is not an uncommon problem with Muffler Men. From time to time, I come across Muffler Men that are missing their feet. And this is mostly due to the fact that when these guys were installed way back in the 60s or the 70s, they were brought to a business and the business really had no idea or plans at that time of ever closing. So to secure the feet better, the giants were often set in concrete. The feet were put in concrete or bolted to a concrete slab. And when the business is closed, often they were in a hurry to get rid of the giants, and the feet were often lopped off, left in the concrete, and the giants hauled off. And so there are about 4 or 5 different giants across America, including a big friend in Idaho, that no longer have its feet. And this is the case with the Ozzys Water Park Muffler Men. They were clearly missing their feet when they arrived at the park. I always try to figure out the history on Muffler Men as far back as I can, and so I've often wondered where were these guys located before they came to Ozzys, and where did they leave their feet? And in the hunt for that and spending hours online doing research, I came across Adventureland. And Adventureland was a park, an amusement park located to the west of Chicago. And it was all the rage back in the 60s and the 70s, and I think it closed its doors around 1977 for the final time. But back in the heyday, it had 2 Muffler Men that were located at the entrance, and they were a pirate and an Indian. And there's very few pictures that I've been able to find of them. And you can see the Muffler Men in those pictures, one of the Indian and one of the pirate. As they stood at the gate, and then you can see the demise of Adventureland. It closed its doors, and the place kind of fell into ruins, and the giants were taken away, but their feet were left. In some of the pictures, you can actually see their feet still on the pedestals near the park entrance, as weeds are growing up everywhere. And this is kind of interesting, although from the pictures, it looks like they were actually cut off at the knees, not the ankles. So I've always been a little unsure if these Muffler Men are actually the ones that ended up at Ozzys. And I don't think there are. I think the pirate was actually a real Bunyan version with the beard. So I'm kind of under the impression now that these aren't the guys that ended up at Ozzys. But it's still a good question. Where did the Adventureland Muffler Men end up? Last year I actually went down to the location of Adventureland, and it's all built up now. But if you go in the backwoods behind one of the complexes, there's a corner of the property there that's still in the woods, and you can still find the ruins of Adventureland back there. There's concrete foundations, there's bits of railings and pipe work that are left there from the days when it was a park. I've searched the grounds thoroughly and found no evidence of the feet that I was looking for. I'm sitting here amongst the ruins of what's left of Adventureland from the park that was here from the early 60s to the late 70s. And there's, it's neat because there's still a lot of things here, not necessarily parts of rides or anything, but all the foundation works, all the concrete. I've spent an hour walking through this lot, and there's old pipes, bunches of concrete everywhere, all through these woods. So there was, the park was definitely here. At one time there were kids playing.